As the cultural exchange project progressed, Dr. Maya Carter found herself increasingly troubled by a growing sense of responsibility and unease. The reality language, with its profound potential to alter reality, had become more than just an academic curiosity or a military asset. It was a pivotal discovery that could redefine human civilization. The stakes were higher than ever, and Maya felt the weight of each decision pressing upon her. Maya's collaboration with international experts and the broadening of the research scope had revealed new insights into the language and its creators. The alien civilization seemed to have developed the language as a tool for harmony and balance, deeply intertwined with their cultural and ethical frameworks. These revelations underscored the risks of misinterpreting or misusing the language, particularly when applied outside its intended context. Despite these insights, the military's pressure to deliver actionable results remained relentless. General Harris and other officials were fixated on the language's potential for strategic applications, particularly in intelligence and psychological operations. They pushed for experiments that would explore the language's ability to influence human perception and behavior, arguing that understanding these aspects was crucial for both defense and offense. Maya found herself at a crossroads. She understood the military's concerns, but was deeply wary of the ethical implications. The language's capacity to alter mental states and perceptions posed significant risks, including the potential for manipulation, coercion, and loss of autonomy. The ethical dilemmas were clear. How could they ensure the language was used responsibly, and who would control its use? During a private conversation with Dr. Elias Voss, Maya voiced her fears. "We're dealing with something that could fundamentally alter human cognition and society," she said, her tone somber. "If we continue down this path without a clear ethical framework, we risk causing harm on a scale we can't fully comprehend." Voss nodded, his expression equally grave. "The power of the reality language is immense, and with that power comes the responsibility to use it wisely. We need to set boundaries, establish ethical guidelines, and ensure transparency. But the military's agenda complicates everything. They see this as a race, a contest of dominance, rather than a quest for understanding." Maya knew that her position was precarious. Her role as a lead researcher gave her some leverage, but the ultimate authority rested with the military and government officials who controlled the funding and direction of the project. The Ethical Oversight Committee, established in part due to Maya's efforts, provided a semblance of checks and balances, but its recommendations were often advisory rather than binding. The turning point came when the military proposed a series of new experiments focusing on the language's potential for psychological manipulation. These experiments, they argued, were essential for understanding the full spectrum of the language's capabilities and for developing countermeasures against possible threats. Maya, deeply uncomfortable with the direction the research was taking, sought to delay or modify the experiments. She argued for the inclusion of more comprehensive ethical reviews and insisted that any experiments involving human subjects adhere to the highest standards of consent and psychological safety. However, her proposals were met with resistance, both from military officials eager for results and from some members of her team who felt pressured to comply. Faced with a potential ethical breach, Maya took a bold step. She convened a confidential meeting with the Ethical Oversight Committee, the international coalition of experts and trusted colleagues. The purpose was to discuss the military's plans, the potential risks involved, and the need for stronger ethical safeguards. During the meeting, Maya laid out her concerns clearly. "We are on the brink of conducting experiments that could have far-reaching and potentially irreversible consequences. The ethical implications are profound. We need to decide, as a community of scholars and ethical custodians, where we stand and what actions we are willing to take." The discussion was intense and heartfelt. Many shared Maya's concerns, recognizing the potential for misuse and the dangers of proceeding without adequate ethical safeguards. Some proposed halting the research entirely, while others suggested negotiating with the military to establish clearer boundaries and conditions. In the end, the group reached a consensus. They would collectively draft a set of non-negotiable ethical guidelines for the research, emphasizing the principles of transparency, informed consent, and respect for autonomy. They would present these guidelines to the military and government officials, along with a firm stance that any deviation from these standards would lead to a withdrawal of their participation and public disclosure of their concerns. This decision was not made lightly. The researchers understood that taking such a stand could have significant personal and professional repercussions. They risked losing their positions, facing legal action, and being ostracized from the scientific community. Yet they also knew that the stakes were too high to remain silent. The presentation of the ethical guidelines was a tense affair. Maya and her colleagues faced a panel of military and government officials, including General Harris. The atmosphere was charged with an underlying tension that spoke to the high stakes involved. Maya spoke first, her voice calm but resolute. "We have come together as a community of researchers and ethicists to present these guidelines, which we believe are essential for the responsible study and use of the reality language. The power we are dealing with is unprecedented, and we must ensure that its use is governed by the highest ethical standards." The guidelines were clear and comprehensive. They included provisions for transparency in research, strict adherence to informed consent for any human subjects, and a prohibition on experiments that could lead to psychological harm or coercion. The guidelines also called for the establishment of an independent oversight body with the authority to review and halt any research that did not comply with these standards. General Harris listened intently, his expression inscrutable. When Maya finished, he addressed the group, his tone measured. "Your concerns are noted, and we appreciate the thoroughness of your proposal. However, we must balance ethical considerations with our national security needs. The reality is that we cannot afford to be left behind in understanding and controlling this language. We will take your guidelines under advisement, but we cannot guarantee full compliance in all areas." The response was disappointing, but not unexpected. Maya and her colleagues had hoped for more definitive support, but they knew that the military's priorities were different. Nevertheless, they made it clear that they would not participate in any research that violated the ethical standards they had set forth. As they left the meeting, Maya felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had taken a stand, but the future was uncertain. The military's response indicated a willingness to proceed with or without their cooperation, and the threat of retaliation loomed large. In the days that followed, Maya and her colleagues continued their work, albeit under an even more watchful eye. They were aware that their positions were tenuous and that the military might seek to bypass them altogether. However, the ethical guidelines had also galvanized public support, with many rallying behind the call for responsible research and use of the reality language. Maya knew the path ahead would be challenging. The linguistic dilemma was not just about scientific discovery, it was about the broader questions of how humanity wielded power and knowledge. The reality language had the potential to shape the future in profound ways, but only if guided by wisdom, ethics, and a commitment to the greater good. As she contemplated the next steps, Maya resolved to continue advocating for responsible stewardship, even if it meant facing significant personal and professional risks. The journey had been difficult, and the challenges were far from over, but she believed that they were on the right path. The choices they made now would echo into the future, shaping the legacy of the reality language and its place in human history. The aftermath of presenting the ethical guidelines was a period of heightened tension and uncertainty. Dr. Maya Carter and her colleagues had drawn a clear line, advocating for responsible research and the establishment of strict ethical standards for studying the reality language. However, the response from the military and government officials had been mixed, leaving Maya and her team in a precarious position. The public, increasingly aware of the stakes involved, continued to express concern and support for the ethical oversight of the research. Media outlets, advocacy groups, and public figures amplified the call for transparency and responsible stewardship, putting additional pressure on the government and military to address the issue. The situation was becoming a national and international talking point, with debates about the ethical use of powerful technologies taking center stage. Amid this growing public discourse, the government decided to intervene more formally. Recognizing the escalating controversy and the potential for international ramifications, a high-level government committee was established to review the entire project. This committee included representatives from various sectors, including ethics, science, law, and national security, tasked with assessing the research's direction and the ethical concerns raised by Maya and her colleagues. Maya was summoned to testify before this committee, along with other key figures involved in the research. The committee hearings were highly publicized, with media coverage ensuring that every word and gesture was scrutinized by a global audience. The hearings were a critical moment, offering a platform for Maya and her allies to advocate for their vision of responsible science. The hearings began with a presentation of the project's history, including the initial discovery of the reality language, the subsequent research, and the military's involvement. The committee members, a diverse group with varying perspectives, listened intently, aware of the gravity of the situation. Maya was one of the first to testify. She spoke passionately about the ethical dilemmas posed by the reality language, emphasizing the need for strict guidelines and international cooperation. She argued that the language's potential to alter reality and influence human perception required a cautious and well-regulated approach, grounded in ethical principles. The reality language is not just another technological advancement, Maya stated. It represents a profound shift in our understanding of reality and the limits of human influence. We have a responsibility to ensure that this knowledge is used wisely, with respect for human rights and ethical standards. The consequences of misuse could be catastrophic, not just for our nation, but for humanity as a whole. Her testimony was followed by other members of her team and the international coalition who echoed her concerns and provided additional insights into the ethical, cultural, and scientific aspects of the research. They highlighted the lessons learned from the Cultural Exchange Project, stressing the importance of understanding the language's intended use and the RAL framework of its creators. The military representatives, including General Harris, presented a contrasting viewpoint. They acknowledged the ethical concerns but argued that national security imperatives could not be overlooked. They emphasized the potential strategic advantages of the reality language, particularly in defense and intelligence, and urged the committee to consider the geopolitical context. General Harris spoke with conviction, outlining the risks of falling behind in the global race to understand and control the language. While we fully support ethical oversight, we must also recognize the realities of the world we live in. Our adversaries are undoubtedly pursuing similar research, and we cannot afford to be unprepared. The stakes are too high, and we must balance our ethical considerations with our duty to protect our nation. The committee's deliberations were intense and complex, reflecting the diverse perspectives and high stakes involved. There was no easy resolution. The issues were too deeply intertwined with questions of ethics, security, and the responsible use of technology. The hearings extended over several days, with testimonies from additional experts, including ethicists, legal scholars, and representatives from international organizations. As the hearings drew to a close, the committee faced the daunting task of making recommendations. They were expected to provide a balanced assessment, considering both the ethical concerns raised by Maya and her colleagues and the strategic imperatives highlighted by the military. In their final report, the committee acknowledged the profound ethical challenges posed by the reality language. They recommended the establishment of a dedicated oversight body with the authority to regulate the research, ensuring transparency, informed consent, and adherence to ethical standards. This body would include members from the scientific community, ethics experts, and representatives from civil society, providing a multifaceted approach to governance. The report also called for increased international cooperation, recognizing that the reality language's implications extended beyond national borders. The committee urged the government to work with international partners to develop global guidelines and frameworks for the ethical use of the language, promoting a collaborative approach to managing its risks and benefits. However, the committee also recognized the importance of national security considerations. They recommended that research into defensive applications of the language continue under strict ethical oversight to develop safeguards and countermeasures. The committee emphasized that any offensive use or weaponization of the language should be subject to rigorous scrutiny and international regulation. The release of the committee's report was a pivotal moment. It provided a pathway for moving forward, balancing the need for ethical oversight with the realities of national security. The government's acceptance of the report's recommendations was seen as a positive step, demonstrating a commitment to addressing the complex issues raised by the reality language. For Maya and her colleagues, the report was a vindication of their concerns and efforts. It validated their calls for ethical oversight and international cooperation, providing a framework for responsible research. However, they also recognized that the journey was far from over. The establishment of the oversight body and the implementation of the committee's recommendations would require continued vigilance and advocacy. The government's intervention marked the beginning of a new phase in the story of the reality language. The establishment of the oversight body, with its mandate to regulate the research and ensure ethical compliance, was a significant achievement. It provided a mechanism for transparency and accountability, addressing many of the concerns that had been raised. The international community's response was also encouraging. Several countries expressed support for the idea of global guidelines and frameworks, recognizing the need for a coordinated approach to managing the language's potential risks and benefits. Discussions about international collaboration, including the possibility of a treaty or agreement, began to take shape, reflecting a growing consensus on the importance of ethical governance. Despite these positive developments, challenges remained. The military's continued interest in the language's strategic applications meant that the research would be closely monitored and potentially contested. The global nature of the issue also posed difficulties, as different countries had different priorities, ethical standards, and levels of transparency. Maya knew that the work was just beginning. The establishment of the oversight body and the implementation of ethical guidelines were crucial steps, but they were not the end. The reality language, with its profound implications for reality, perception, and power, required ongoing reflection, dialogue, and vigilance. As she looked to the future, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. The hearings and the committee's report had brought the ethical dimensions of the research to the forefront, creating a space for meaningful discussion and action. She was determined to continue advocating for responsible stewardship, working with allies and partners to ensure that the reality language was studied and used in ways that respected human dignity and promoted the common good. The story of the reality language was a testament to the challenges and opportunities of scientific discovery. It highlighted the need for ethical reflection, international cooperation, and a commitment to the greater good. For Maya, the journey had been one of learning, growth, and transformation. It had tested her resolve and deepened her understanding of the responsibilities that came with knowledge and power. As she prepared for the next phase of her work, Maya knew that the path ahead would be challenging. But she also felt hopeful. The hearings had shown that it was possible to have a thoughtful and constructive conversation about ethics and technology, even in the face of pressure and uncertainty. The journey was far from over, but Maya was ready to continue, guided by the lessons of the past and the promise of a more ethical and enlightened future. Despite the establishment of the oversight body and the growing framework for ethical governance, tensions continued to simmer beneath the surface of the reality language project. The international community's response had been positive, with many countries endorsing the call for transparency and cooperation. However, not all parties were satisfied with the new direction, particularly within certain military and governmental circles that felt the oversight and regulations were hindering vital national security interests. As Dr. Maya Carter and her colleagues continued their work under the new guidelines, they began to notice subtle but disconcerting signs of dissent and dissatisfaction within the ranks of the military. General Harris, while publicly supportive of the oversight body's mandate, seemed increasingly distant and less engaged. Rumors of clandestine meetings and unauthorized research activities began to circulate, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and unease. Maya, aware of the delicate balance they had achieved, was concerned that any deviation from the established protocols could jeopardize their progress and credibility. She decided to monitor the situation discreetly, hoping to address any issues before they escalated. The situation took a dramatic turn when Maya received an anonymous tip-off from within the military. The message, encrypted and sent through a secure channel, claimed that a rogue faction within the military was conducting unauthorized experiments with the reality language. This faction, the message warned, was frustrated with the perceived constraints imposed by the oversight body and was seeking to explore the language's potential for offensive applications, including psychological manipulation and strategic influence. The message was a bombshell. If true, it meant that some members of the military were actively subverting the ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms that had been established. Such actions not only threatened the integrity of the project, but also posed significant ethical and security risks. Maya immediately convened a meeting with her most trusted colleagues, including Dr. Elias Voss, Dr. Alan Finch, and Dr. Lisa Cheng. She shared the contents of the anonymous message and the implications of the alleged rogue activities. "This is serious," Maya said, her voice filled with concern. "If there's even a possibility that unauthorized research is being conducted, we need to investigate and put a stop to it. The risks are too great, both ethically and in terms of national and global security." Dr. Finch nodded, his expression grim. "We need to act quickly and discreetly. If this goes public, it could undermine everything we've worked for, not to mention the potential fallout if the experiments have unintended consequences." Dr. Cheng agreed. "We should inform the oversight body and the relevant authorities, but we need to gather more information first. We can't make accusations without evidence." The group decided to launch a quiet investigation, leveraging their connections and access to gather information about the rogue faction and their activities. They worked carefully, aware that they were treading a dangerous path. If the rumors were true, they were dealing with individuals who were willing to bypass ethical guidelines for their ends. Over the next few days, the team collected a series of disturbing findings. They discovered that certain experiments had been conducted off-site, away from the main research facility and the oversight body's jurisdiction. These experiments appeared to focus on the more controversial aspects of the reality language, including its effects on human cognition and perception. The evidence pointed to a small but influential group within the military, possibly with high-level support. This group was determined to explore the language's full potential, including its applications in areas like intelligence, psychological operations, and even direct influence over individuals or groups. Maya and her team faced a critical decision. They could go public with their findings, risking a major scandal and potential backlash, or they could attempt to address the issue internally, hoping to contain the situation and prevent further unauthorized activities. After much deliberation, they decided on a dual approach. Maya would inform the oversight body and trusted government officials, presenting the evidence they had gathered. Simultaneously, Dr. Voss and Dr. Cheng would attempt to engage with members of the rogue faction, seeking to understand their motivations and, if possible, persuade them to cease their activities. The meeting with the oversight body was tense. Maya presented the findings carefully, emphasizing the need for discretion and a measured response. The members of the oversight body, shocked by the revelations, pledged to investigate and take appropriate action. They also reinforced the importance of maintaining ethical standards and transparency, recognizing the broader implications for international trust and cooperation. Meanwhile, Dr. Voss and Dr. Cheng reached out to contacts within the military, hoping to establish a dialogue with the rogue faction. Their efforts were met with mixed responses. Some individuals were receptive, expressing concerns about the faction's activities, while others were defensive or evasive. Through these discussions, Voss and Cheng learned that the rogue faction was motivated by a combination of frustration with the oversight body's restrictions and a genuine belief that the reality language could provide a strategic advantage too important to ignore. They argued that in a world of increasing geopolitical competition, understanding and potentially controlling the language's effects was essential for national security. Voss and Cheng emphasized the ethical and practical dangers of unauthorized research, warning that such actions could lead to unforeseen and potentially disastrous consequences. They urged the faction members to reconsider their approach, highlighting the importance of working within the established ethical framework and maintaining international cooperation. Despite these efforts, it became clear that not all members of the faction were willing to back down. Some remained committed to their course, convinced that the risks were justified by the potential rewards. As the situation escalated, Maya and her team faced increasing pressure. They knew that time was running out, and they needed to find a way to contain the rogue activities before they could cause harm. The oversight body, now fully briefed, launched a formal investigation, working closely with government authorities to track down the unauthorized experiments and hold those responsible accountable. The investigation led to a series of confrontations and revelations. Several members of the rogue faction were identified and questioned, and some were removed from their positions or faced disciplinary action. The findings confirmed that unauthorized research had been conducted, with some experiments yielding alarming results, including psychological disturbances in test subjects and unexplained physical phenomena. The fallout was significant. The exposure of the rogue faction's activities led to a tightening of security and oversight measures, as well as a reaffirmation of the ethical guidelines governing the research. The oversight body issued a public statement condemning the unauthorized experiments and reiterating its commitment to transparency and responsible stewardship. For Maya and her colleagues, the incident was a sobering reminder of the challenges they faced. The reality language, with its immense power and potential, was a double-edged sword. It offered incredible possibilities for understanding and shaping reality, but it also posed profound ethical and security risks. The rogue faction's actions had nearly derailed their efforts to establish a responsible and ethical framework for studying the language. However, the crisis also underscored the importance of vigilance, transparency, and international cooperation. It was a testament to the complexities of managing such a powerful discovery, requiring constant attention to the balance between knowledge and responsibility. As the dust settled, Maya reflected on the lessons learned. The journey had been difficult, marked by ethical dilemmas, political pressures, and the ever-present danger of misuse. Yet, it had also been a journey of growth and learning, revealing the potential for a global community to come together in pursuit of a common good. Maya knew that the path forward would continue to be fraught with challenges. The reality language was a frontier of human knowledge, one that required careful navigation and a deep commitment to ethical principles. The rogue faction's activities had been a warning, a reminder of the need for constant vigilance and a collective commitment to responsible science. With renewed resolve, Maya and her team redoubled their efforts to ensure that the reality language was studied and used in ways that honored the values of transparency, ethics, and the greater good. The rogue faction's actions had been a setback, but they had also reinforced the importance of the work they were doing. The journey was far from over, but Maya was determined to continue, guided by the lessons of the past and the hope for a more ethical and enlightened future. The revelations from the rogue faction incident left Dr. Maya Carter and her team both troubled and reflective. As they worked to restore trust and reinforce ethical guidelines, Maya became increasingly preoccupied with a deeper, more philosophical question. What was the true nature of the reality language, and what did it reveal about the civilization that created it? The Cultural Exchange Project had already uncovered significant insights, suggesting that the alien creators of the reality language viewed it not merely as a tool, but as a profound expression of their worldview and ethical principles. However, there was a growing realization that the language might encompass even more fundamental truths about reality and consciousness. Maya, with her background in linguistics and anthropology, felt a deepening curiosity about the language's potential as a bridge between different forms of consciousness and understanding. She wondered if the language could offer insights into the nature of reality itself, perhaps even hinting at concepts that transcended human experience and comprehension. Driven by these questions, Maya proposed a new line of research focused on exploring the metaphysical and philosophical dimensions of the reality language. She gathered a diverse group of scholars, including philosophers, theologians, and cognitive scientists, to join her in this endeavor. The goal was to delve deeper into the language's structure and symbolism, seeking to uncover its potential meanings and implications. The first breakthrough came from a detailed analysis of the spiral inscriptions at the ceremonial site. The team hypothesized that the spiral, a common symbol in many human cultures, represented a journey of enlightenment or spiritual ascension. In the context of the reality language, it seemed to suggest a process of understanding and mastering the language, possibly reflecting a journey toward higher consciousness or unity with the cosmos. Dr. Elias Voss, with his expertise in ancient cultures and languages, noted parallels with certain mystical traditions on Earth, where language and symbols were used as tools for spiritual exploration and transformation. He speculated that the reality language might serve a similar purpose, acting as a medium for connecting the material and immaterial, the finite and the infinite. Maya found this perspective intriguing. She began to explore the possibility that the language encoded not just practical knowledge, but a kind of metaphysical or spiritual wisdom. This led her to consider the idea that the language could facilitate altered states of consciousness, providing insights into the nature of existence and the interconnectedness of all things. As the research progressed, the team identified a series of symbols that appeared to be associated with states of consciousness and perception. These symbols, when spoken or meditated upon, seemed to induce experiences of heightened awareness, clarity, and even transcendence. The effects were subtle but profound, suggesting that the language might offer a means of exploring different dimensions of reality. This line of inquiry raised profound questions about the nature of consciousness and the limits of human understanding. The reality language seemed to challenge conventional notions of reality, suggesting that what humans perceived as the physical world might be only one aspect of a broader, more complex existence. Maya and her colleagues debated the implications of these findings. Some argued that the language represented a form of advanced technology, a tool for manipulating perception and reality in ways that humans were only beginning to grasp. Others saw it as a philosophical or spiritual system, offering a path to deeper understanding and enlightenment. The research also raised ethical considerations. If the language had the potential to alter consciousness and perception, how should it be used? Could it offer therapeutic or educational benefits, helping individuals explore and expand their understanding of themselves and the world? Or did it pose risks, potentially leading to misuse or manipulation? Maya was particularly concerned about the ethical use of the language's consciousness-altering properties. She advocated for a cautious and respectful approach, emphasizing the need for informed consent and ethical oversight. The language's potential to influence mental states made it a powerful tool, but also a potentially dangerous one. As the team delved deeper into the metaphysical aspects of the language, they began to uncover patterns that suggested a kind of cosmology or worldview. The symbols seemed to reflect a belief in the interconnectedness of all things, the unity of mind and matter, and the cyclical nature of existence. This perspective resonated with certain philosophical and spiritual traditions on Earth, such as Buddhism, Taoism, and certain strands of mysticism. Maya found herself increasingly drawn to these ideas. She began to see the reality language not just as a scientific or linguistic phenomenon, but as a profound invitation to rethink fundamental assumptions about reality and consciousness. The language seemed to point to a more holistic and integrated view of the universe, one that transcended the boundaries between science, philosophy, and spirituality. In this context, the language's potential as a tool for exploration and discovery became even more significant. It offered a means of bridging different ways of knowing, connecting empirical observation with intuitive insight, and material reality with immaterial consciousness. Maya envisioned a future where the reality language could be used to foster deeper understanding and harmony, both within individuals and across cultures. However, she also recognized the challenges and responsibilities that came with this vision. The language's power required careful stewardship, guided by ethical principles and a commitment to the greater good. The potential for misuse, whether for manipulation, control, or other harmful purposes, remained a serious concern. As the research continued, Maya and her team sought to develop practical guidelines for the ethical use of the language's consciousness-altering properties. They emphasized the importance of transparency, informed consent, and respect for individual autonomy. They also advocated for the establishment of educational and training programs to help people understand and use the language responsibly. The team's findings and proposals were presented at an international conference on consciousness and ethics, attracting widespread interest and debate. Scholars, ethicists, and spiritual leaders from around the world engaged in lively discussions about the implications of the reality language, exploring its potential as a tool for personal and collective transformation. Maya, speaking at the conference, shared her vision of the language as a bridge between different dimensions of reality and consciousness. She emphasized the need for a holistic and integrated approach, one that honored the language's potential as both a scientific and spiritual resource. The reality language offers us a unique opportunity to explore the nature of reality and consciousness, Maya said. It challenges us to expand our understanding and to consider new possibilities for knowledge, growth, and connection. But with this opportunity comes a profound responsibility. We must use this knowledge wisely, with humility and respect, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and the impact of our actions on the world and each other. The conference marked a turning point in the discourse surrounding the reality language. It brought together diverse perspectives and fostered a sense of shared purpose and collaboration. It also highlighted the importance of ethical stewardship and the need for ongoing dialogue and reflection. For Maya, the conference was a reaffirmation of her commitment to exploring the reality language in a way that honored its complexity and potential. It was a journey of discovery, not just about the language itself, but about the deeper questions of existence and consciousness that it raised. As she looked to the future, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. The linguistic revelation had opened new doors of understanding, offering a glimpse of a more integrated and holistic view of reality. The journey was far from over, but Maya was determined to continue exploring, guided by the principles of ethics, wisdom, and a deep respect for the mysteries of existence. The revelations about the metaphysical and philosophical dimensions of the reality language brought a new layer of complexity to the ongoing research. Dr. Maya Carter and her team were now grappling not only with the ethical implications of their work, but also with the profound impact it could have on human understanding and society. This deepened the internal conflicts within the research team and between the scientists and their military overseers. The reality language's potential to alter consciousness and perception opened up possibilities that extended far beyond traditional scientific boundaries. Some team members, inspired by the language's philosophical insights, saw it as a tool for personal and collective transformation, capable of fostering greater empathy, understanding, and connection. Others, however, remained focused on its practical applications, particularly in areas such as medicine, psychology, and even defense. The military's interest in the language continued to center on its strategic applications. While the oversight body and international guidelines had established ethical boundaries, there was still pressure from certain factions within the military to explore the language's potential for influence and control. This included its possible use in psychological operations, intelligence gathering, and even covert influence on political or social dynamics. Maya found herself increasingly at odds with these agendas. The more she delved into the language's deeper meanings and potential, the more she felt that it should be approached with caution and respect. She feared that a narrow focus on utilitarian or strategic goals could lead to misuse and unforeseen consequences, particularly if the language were used without a full understanding of its effects. The team was divided. Some members, like Dr. Alan Finch and Dr. Lisa Cheng, supported Maya's call for a cautious and ethical approach. They believed that the language's full potential could only be realized if it was studied in a holistic context, integrating scientific, philosophical, and ethical perspectives. They also emphasized the need for ongoing dialogue with international partners and the broader public to ensure transparency and accountability. Others, however, felt that the ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms were overly restrictive. They argued that the language's potential benefits, particularly in areas like healthcare, communication, and security, justified a more proactive approach. They were concerned that excessive caution could stifle innovation and limit the project's contributions to society. This internal conflict came to a head during a critical meeting where the team debated the future direction of their research. The meeting was tense, with passionate arguments on both sides. "We have a responsibility to explore the reality language fully," argued one researcher, a cognitive scientist interested in the language's applications in mental health. "This isn't just about philosophy or ethics, it's about real-world impacts. We could develop new treatments for psychological disorders, enhance cognitive abilities, and improve communication. We can't afford to be paralyzed by fear of the unknown." Dr. Finch responded with a counterpoint, "But we can't ignore the risks. The language's effects on consciousness are profound and not fully understood. We need to proceed with caution, ensuring that we don't inadvertently cause harm. This isn't just about potential benefits, it's about the ethical use of power." Dr. Cheng added, "We also need to consider the broader implications. The language could change how we understand reality itself. We have to approach this with humility and a recognition of our limitations." The debate revealed the deep divisions within the team. While everyone agreed on the importance of the research, there were significant disagreements about the methods and goals. Some advocated for a more exploratory and open-ended approach, while others pushed for targeted research with clear practical applications. Maya, as the lead researcher, found herself in a difficult position. She sympathized with both sides of the argument, but was particularly concerned about the ethical implications of pushing the research too quickly or in the wrong direction. She knew that the team needed a clear and coherent strategy, one that balanced the need for innovation with the imperative of ethical responsibility. In a moment of reflection, Maya addressed the team, her voice steady but resolute. "We are at a crossroads. The reality language offers incredible potential, but it also presents profound challenges. We need to find a way to integrate our diverse perspectives and goals to move forward with a shared vision. This means respecting the ethical guidelines we've established, but also being open to new possibilities and insights." She continued, "We must remember that our work has implications far beyond our immediate goals. It touches on fundamental questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and human potential. We have a duty to approach this research with integrity, humility, and a commitment to the greater good." The meeting concluded with a renewed commitment to dialogue and collaboration. The team agreed to establish a working group to explore the metaphysical and philosophical dimensions of the language, while also continuing research into its practical applications. This compromise aimed to balance the need for ethical oversight with the desire for innovation and exploration. However, the internal conflicts were far from resolved. The team continued to grapple with the tensions between different approaches and goals. Maya knew that these conflicts were a natural part of such groundbreaking work, but she also recognized the need for a cohesive and united approach. As the research progressed, the team faced new challenges and discoveries. They explored the language's potential for enhancing communication and understanding, including its applications in education, therapy, and cross-cultural dialogue. They also continued to study its effects on consciousness, with a focus on ensuring that any use of the language was ethical and responsible. The military's role in the project remained a source of tension. While some military officials supported the ethical guidelines, others continued to push for more aggressive exploration of the language's strategic applications. This pressure created a challenging environment where the team had to navigate competing interests and priorities. Maya, committed to the project's ethical principles, sought to build alliances with other stakeholders, including international partners, ethical oversight bodies, and the broader scientific community. She believed that a collaborative and transparent approach was essential for ensuring that the research was conducted responsibly and for fostering public trust. The internal conflict within the team was a microcosm of the broader debates surrounding the reality language. It reflected the challenges of integrating diverse perspectives and goals, balancing innovation with ethics, and navigating the complexities of power and responsibility. For Maya, the journey was both challenging and rewarding. She was inspired by the language's potential and the possibilities it opened up for understanding reality and consciousness. At the same time, she was deeply aware of the ethical challenges and the need for responsible stewardship. As she continued her work, Maya remained committed to the principles of ethics, transparency, and collaboration. She knew that the path forward would not be easy, but she believed in the importance of their work and the potential it held for the future. The internal conflict was a reminder of the complexities and responsibilities of scientific discovery, and Maya was determined to navigate these challenges with integrity and a commitment to the greater good. The exploration of the metaphysical and philosophical aspects of the reality language led Dr. Maya Carter and her team to profound insights, but it also raised new questions and challenges. As they delved deeper into the language's potential to alter consciousness and perception, they began to suspect that the alien civilization that created it had intended more than just communication or technological applications. The language seemed to carry a deeper, possibly cautionary message, a warning about its own use. The breakthrough came during a detailed study of a newly discovered set of inscriptions found in a previously unexplored area near the original monolith. These inscriptions were more complex and elaborate than those previously documented, suggesting a higher level of sophistication and possibly a more significant message. Maya and her colleagues worked meticulously to decode these new symbols. The process was slow and painstaking, requiring not just linguistic analysis, but also consideration of cultural and philosophical contexts. As they pieced together the meaning, a clearer picture began to emerge. The inscriptions seemed to describe the consequences of misusing the reality language, emphasizing the importance of ethical use and the dangers of hubris. One key section of the inscriptions described a concept that Maya and her team interpreted as a form of cosmic balance or universal harmony. The symbols suggested that the reality language had the power to alter this balance, potentially causing disruptions or imbalances that could have far-reaching consequences. This idea resonated with certain earthly philosophical and spiritual traditions that emphasized the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony. Another part of the inscriptions appeared to recount a historical event or myth from the alien civilization involving a catastrophic incident caused by the misuse of the language. The story, as best as the team could interpret, spoke of individuals who had used the language for personal gain or power, leading to a breakdown in social order and widespread suffering. This narrative seemed to serve as a warning, emphasizing the ethical responsibilities that came with such powerful knowledge. The implications of these findings were profound. They suggested that the reality language was not merely a neutral tool, but a powerful force that required careful and responsible use. The alien creators seemed to have been acutely aware of the potential for misuse and had embedded cautionary messages within the language itself. Maya felt a deep sense of responsibility upon uncovering these warnings. The inscriptions reinforced her belief that their work was not just about scientific discovery, but about stewardship and ethical responsibility. The language's power came with inherent risks, and it was crucial to understand and respect the principles that governed its use. The team presented their findings to the oversight body and the broader scientific community. The response was a mix of awe and concern. The idea that the language carried an inherent warning added a new dimension to the ongoing discussions about ethics and responsibility. It underscored the importance of transparency, informed consent, and the establishment of safeguards to prevent misuse. However, not everyone was receptive to the cautionary message. Some within the military and certain scientific circles remained focused on the practical applications of the language, particularly its potential benefits in fields like medicine, communication, and defense. They argued that while ethical considerations were important, they should not paralyze progress or prevent the exploration of the language's full potential. This divergence in perspectives led to renewed tensions within the project. Maya and her allies, committed to the ethical guidelines and the principles outlined by the oversight body, continued to advocate for a cautious and responsible approach. They emphasized the importance of understanding the full implications of the language and the need for international cooperation to manage its risks and benefits. The discovery of the alien warning also sparked a broader public debate. Media outlets, scholars, and commentators engaged in discussions about the ethical use of powerful technologies, the responsibilities of scientists and governments, and the lessons that could be drawn from the alien civilization's experience. There was a growing recognition that the reality language was not just a scientific or technological issue, but a profound ethical and philosophical challenge. As the debate intensified, Maya found herself increasingly in demand as a speaker and thought leader. She spoke at conferences, participated in panel discussions, and contributed to publications, sharing her insights and advocating for a balanced and ethical approach to the research. She emphasized the need for humility, respect for the unknown, and a commitment to the greater good. During one such appearance, Maya articulated her vision for the responsible use of the reality language. "We are stewards of a powerful and mysterious gift," she said. "It is not enough to simply understand the mechanics of the language. We must also understand its deeper implications and the responsibilities that come with it." The alien warning reminds us that knowledge and power are intertwined with ethical obligations. We must ensure that our use of the reality language honors these principles, fostering harmony and understanding rather than division and conflict. Her message resonated with many, but also drew criticism from those who felt that she was being overly cautious or obstructing progress. Some argued that the risks of inaction were just as significant as the risks of misuse, particularly in a competitive global landscape where other nations might not share the same ethical scruples. The oversight body, in response to the findings and the ongoing debate, took steps to strengthen the ethical framework governing the research. They implemented stricter guidelines for experiments involving the language's consciousness-altering properties, required more rigorous reviews of proposed applications, and increased transparency and public engagement. They also called for greater international collaboration, seeking to establish a global consensus on the responsible use of the language. These measures were welcomed by Maya and her team, who saw them as essential for safeguarding the integrity of the research and ensuring that the reality language was used for the common good. However, they also recognized that the challenges were far from over. The discovery of the alien warning had added urgency to their work, highlighting the need for continued vigilance and ethical reflection. For Maya, the revelation was a turning point. It deepened her commitment to exploring the reality language not just as a scientific phenomenon, but as a catalyst for philosophical and ethical inquiry. She saw it as an opportunity to foster a broader dialogue about the nature of knowledge, power, and responsibility, both within the scientific community and in society at large. As the project moved forward, Maya and her colleagues continued to grapple with the complexities and uncertainties of their work. They remained dedicated to their mission, guided by the principles of ethics, transparency, and collaboration. The alien warning was a reminder of the stakes involved and the importance of approaching their research with humility and care. The journey of understanding the reality language was a journey of discovery, not just about the language itself, but about the deeper questions of existence and human potential. It was a journey that required constant reflection, dialogue, and a commitment to the greater good. And it was a journey that Maya was determined to continue. Inspired by the hope that their work could contribute to a more ethical and enlightened future. The disclosure of the alien warning embedded within the reality language inscriptions sent ripples through the international community. The realization that the language carried inherent risks and ethical considerations led to a surge in global interest and concern. Countries around the world began to reassess their own research and policies related to the language, spurred by the need to address both the opportunities and dangers it presented. Dr. Maya Carter and her team, along with the oversight body, became central figures in this burgeoning global conversation. They were invited to participate in a series of international forums aimed at developing a coordinated response to the ethical, scientific, and security challenges posed by the reality language. These forums brought together representatives from governments, academic institutions, ethical organizations, and various international bodies. The first major conference was hosted by the United Nations, recognizing the global implications of the reality language and the need for a unified approach. Maya, along with Dr. Elias Voss and other key members of the research team, attended as part of a delegation representing their country's scientific and ethical community. The conference was a landmark event, highlighting the significance of the language as a shared human concern. In her keynote address at the conference, Maya emphasized the need for international cooperation and the establishment of global standards for the study and application of the reality language. She highlighted the lessons learned from the alien warning and the importance of approaching the language with a deep sense of responsibility and ethical awareness. "We are at a critical juncture," Maya said to the gathered delegates. "The reality language offers us unprecedented possibilities for understanding reality, consciousness, and ourselves, but it also presents profound risks, as highlighted by the alien warning. We must come together as a global community to ensure that this knowledge is used wisely, ethically, and for the benefit of all humanity. This means setting clear standards, fostering open dialogue, and prioritizing the common good over narrow interests." Her speech resonated with many attendees, who recognized the importance of a collective approach to managing the language's potential. There was broad agreement on the need for an international framework, with proposals ranging from the establishment of a global oversight body to the development of treaties or agreements that would regulate research and applications. One of the key outcomes of the conference was the formation of an International Council on the Reality Language, ICRL. This council was tasked with coordinating international efforts, developing guidelines and standards, and facilitating cooperation among nations. It included representatives from a wide range of disciplines and sectors, reflecting the multifaceted nature of the challenges posed by the language. The ICRL's mandate included several core objectives: ensuring ethical oversight and transparency in all research related to the reality language, promoting the responsible use of the language in various applications, and fostering public engagement and education. The Council also aimed to address potential security concerns, working to prevent the misuse of the language for coercive or harmful purposes. The establishment of the ICRL marked a significant step forward in the global response to the reality language. It provided a platform for dialogue, collaboration, and shared responsibility, helping to bridge gaps between different countries and cultures. The Council's work was seen as essential for navigating the complex ethical, scientific, and geopolitical landscape associated with the language. However, the creation of the ICRL also faced challenges. Some countries, wary of external oversight, expressed concerns about sovereignty and the potential for the Council to infringe on national interests. There were also debates about the scope and authority of the ICRL, with disagreements over how to balance ethical considerations with scientific freedom and innovation. Maya and her colleagues worked diligently to address these concerns, advocating for a balanced and inclusive approach. They emphasized that the ICRL was not intended to limit research or stifle innovation, but to ensure that such activities were conducted responsibly and transparently. They also highlighted the importance of inclusivity, ensuring that all countries, regardless of their scientific or technological capabilities, had a voice in the discussions. In parallel with the ICRL's efforts, Maya continued to engage with the public, media, and academic community. She participated in a series of interviews, lectures, and public forums where she discussed the ethical implications of the reality language and the importance of global cooperation. Her message was one of cautious optimism, emphasizing the potential for the language to foster greater understanding and unity, provided it was used ethically and inclusively. The global response also spurred new research and collaborations. Scientists and scholars from different countries began to share data, insights, and methodologies, contributing to a more comprehensive understanding of the reality language. This collaborative spirit extended beyond the scientific community, involving ethicists, philosophers, and cultural leaders in a broader dialogue about the language's significance and potential impact. One promising area of research focused on the language's applications in education and communication. Researchers explored how the language could enhance learning, foster cross-cultural understanding, and promote empathy. There were also initiatives to develop educational programs and resources aimed at helping the public understand the language's complexities and ethical considerations. The ICRL played a key role in facilitating these efforts, providing a platform for coordination and knowledge exchange. The Council also worked to address potential security concerns, developing guidelines and protocols to prevent the misuse of the language for coercive or harmful purposes. This included measures to safeguard against the use of the language in psychological operations, manipulation, or other unethical activities. As the global response unfolded, Maya felt a deep sense of purpose and responsibility. The establishment of the ICRL and the broader international efforts represented a significant achievement, reflecting a collective commitment to ethical stewardship and responsible innovation. However, she also recognized that the journey was far from over. The challenges posed by the reality language were complex and multifaceted, requiring ongoing vigilance, reflection, and dialogue. Maya continued to advocate for a holistic and inclusive approach, emphasizing the importance of integrating diverse perspectives and values. She believed that the reality language had the potential to be a catalyst for positive change, fostering greater understanding, empathy, and unity. But this potential could only be realized if the language was studied and applied with care, respect, and a commitment to the common good. As the ICRL began its work and the global response took shape, Maya remained hopeful and determined. She saw the reality language as a unique opportunity to bridge divides, expand knowledge, and inspire a more ethical and enlightened future. The path forward was challenging, but she was confident that with collaboration, transparency, and ethical integrity, they could navigate these challenges and unlock the language's full potential for the benefit of all humanity. The global response was a testament to the power of collective action and the importance of shared values. It demonstrated that even in the face of profound challenges, humanity could come together to seek common ground, prioritize ethical considerations, and work toward a better future. For Maya, this was a source of inspiration and a reminder of the transformative potential of knowledge, compassion, and cooperation. As the global framework for the responsible study and use of the reality language took shape under the guidance of the International Council on the Reality Language, ICRL, Dr. Maya Carter continued to grapple with the practical and ethical challenges of the project. While the ICRL provided a platform for international cooperation and oversight, Maya remained concerned about the persistent undercurrents of dissent and ambition within certain factions of the military and other research entities. The rogue faction incident had exposed the risks of unauthorized and unethical research, and Maya feared that similar issues could arise again, potentially with even more serious consequences. She understood that as long as the reality language existed, there would be those who sought to exploit its power for strategic or personal gain. This realization weighed heavily on her, prompting her to consider a bold and controversial course of action. Maya began to contemplate the possibility of limiting access to the reality language's most potent and potentially dangerous aspects. She knew that completely suppressing the language was neither feasible nor desirable, given its profound potential for positive applications. However, she believed that it might be possible to safeguard against misuse by restricting the dissemination of certain critical components, particularly those related to consciousness alteration and reality manipulation. The idea was risky and fraught with ethical dilemmas. On one hand, it could help prevent the misuse of the language and mitigate the risks of unauthorized research. On the other hand, it raised concerns about censorship, control, and the potential for abuse of power. Maya was acutely aware that any attempt to restrict knowledge had to be approached with the utmost care, transparency, and accountability. To explore this possibility, Maya consulted with her closest colleagues, including Dr. Elias Voss, Dr. Alan Finch, and Dr. Lisa Cheng. She presented her thoughts on the potential benefits and dangers of limiting access to certain aspects of the language, emphasizing the need for a careful and ethical approach. The reality language has the potential to alter reality and consciousness in profound ways, Maya explained. While we have established guidelines and oversight, we cannot ignore the possibility that some might seek to bypass these safeguards. If we can identify and restrict the dissemination of the most sensitive components, we might be able to prevent misuse without stifling legitimate research and exploration. Dr. Voss, always the philosopher, expressed concern about the implications of such a strategy. The idea of restricting knowledge is troubling. It goes against the principles of open inquiry and transparency. We must be careful not to create a situation where a select few hold the keys to such powerful knowledge. This could lead to further ethical issues, including the potential for control and manipulation. Dr. Finch echoed these concerns, but also acknowledged the risks posed by unrestricted access. We can't ignore the dangers, especially given the interest from military and intelligence sectors. If we don't take steps to manage these risks, we could face serious consequences, both ethically and practically. Dr. Cheng, with her background in ethics, suggested a balanced approach. Perhaps there's a way to implement safeguards without resorting to outright restriction. We could focus on education, transparency, and strict ethical guidelines, ensuring that anyone working with the language understands the responsibilities involved. The discussion was intense and reflective, with no easy answers. The team ultimately agreed that while restricting access posed ethical challenges, it was worth exploring further, particularly in the context of preventing misuse. They decided to propose a detailed plan to the ICRL, outlining potential strategies for managing access to the language's most sensitive aspects, coupled with robust ethical and educational frameworks. The proposal was carefully crafted, emphasizing the importance of transparency, accountability, and broad consultation. It included recommendations for enhanced security measures, ethical training programs, and the establishment of a special committee within the ICRL to oversee the implementation and management of any access restrictions. Maya and her team presented the proposal at a special session of the ICRL, attended by representatives from various countries, scientific bodies, and ethical organizations. The session was highly anticipated given the controversial nature of the proposal and the high stakes involved. In her presentation, Maya emphasized the need for a balanced and responsible approach. "We are not advocating for censorship or the suppression of knowledge," she said. "Our goal is to protect against the potential misuse of the reality language, particularly in areas where the risks are greatest. We believe that with the right safeguards and ethical oversight, we can manage these risks while still fostering innovation and exploration." The proposal sparked a vigorous debate among the ICRL members and attendees. Some supported the idea, recognizing the need for proactive measures to prevent misuse. They argued that the reality language's unique properties required exceptional care and oversight, given its potential impact on reality and consciousness. Others, however, expressed strong reservations. They warned that restricting access could lead to unintended consequences, including the concentration of power, the erosion of academic freedom, and the potential for abuse. They emphasized the importance of transparency, open inquiry, and the democratic dissemination of knowledge. The session concluded with a decision to establish a working group to further explore the proposal, taking into account the diverse perspectives and concerns raised. This group, composed of ethicists, scientists, legal experts, and representatives from civil society, was tasked with developing a detailed plan for managing access to the reality language, with a focus on balancing ethical considerations with the principles of open science. For Maya, the outcome was a mixed victory. While she was relieved that the proposal had not been dismissed outright, she was also aware of the challenges ahead. The working group's task was daunting, requiring careful deliberation, consultation, and consensus building. Maya knew that the stakes were incredibly high, and the decisions made in the coming months could shape the future of the reality language and its role in society. As the working group began its deliberations, Maya continued to advocate for a thoughtful and ethical approach. She engaged with stakeholders, participated in public forums, and worked to build a broad coalition of support. She emphasized the importance of integrity, responsibility, and the collective good, urging all involved to prioritize these values in their decision-making. The process was complex and often contentious, reflecting the broader societal debates about knowledge, power, and ethics. Yet, Maya remained hopeful. She believed that through dialogue, collaboration, and a commitment to shared values, it was possible to find a path forward that honored the transformative potential of the reality language while safeguarding against its risks. The experience also deepened Maya's understanding of her own role as a steward of knowledge. She realized that the decisions they faced were not just about the reality language, but about the broader principles of how society approached the challenges and opportunities of scientific discovery. It was a lesson in humility, responsibility, and the interconnectedness of all things, a lesson that Maya carried with her as she continued her work. The gambit of proposing restrictions on the reality language's most sensitive aspects was a bold and controversial move. It reflected the deep ethical and practical challenges posed by the language and the need for innovative solutions. As the journey continued, Maya and her colleagues were more committed than ever to navigating these challenges with integrity, wisdom, and a dedication to the common good. The deliberations of the International Council on the Reality Language, ICRL, working group were intense and thorough, with stakeholders from various sectors debating the best approach to managing access to the reality language's most sensitive aspects. As the discussions unfolded, it became clear that the decision would mark a crucial turning point in the global handling of this powerful and enigmatic tool. Dr. Maya Carter, who had been instrumental in initiating the conversation about restricting access, continued to play a key role in the discussions. She worked tirelessly to build consensus, emphasizing the need for a balanced approach that protected against misuse while respecting the principles of openness and scientific inquiry. Maya knew that finding common ground was essential, not only for the integrity of the project, but also for maintaining international cooperation and public trust. The working group explored various models for managing access. These included tiered access systems, where different levels of information and capabilities would be available based on qualifications and ethical training, stringent oversight mechanisms to monitor the use of the language, and enhanced security protocols to prevent unauthorized dissemination. They also considered the establishment of a central repository or archive where the most sensitive information could be securely stored and accessed only under specific, controlled conditions. As these discussions progressed, a new and urgent issue emerged. Reports began to surface of unauthorized attempts to access and replicate aspects of the reality language. These incidents were traced back to various actors, including private corporations, rogue researchers, and potentially even state-sponsored entities. The reports indicated a growing interest in the language's applications, particularly in areas such as psychological manipulation, artificial intelligence, and even biological enhancement. The emergence of these unauthorized activities underscored the risks that Maya and her colleagues had been concerned about. It highlighted the need for a robust and coordinated response to safeguard the language's integrity and prevent its misuse. The situation also added urgency to the working group's deliberations, as it became clear that the window of opportunity for establishing effective controls was narrowing. The turning point came when the working group finalized a comprehensive proposal for the ICRL's consideration. The proposal recommended the implementation of a multi-tiered access system coupled with stringent ethical guidelines and oversight mechanisms. It also called for the creation of an international registry of researchers and institutions working with the reality language, along with mandatory reporting of all research activities and findings. A key feature of the proposal was the establishment of an independent oversight committee with the authority to review, approve, or restrict research proposals based on ethical considerations and potential risks. This committee would include representatives from diverse fields, including ethics, law, science, and civil society, ensuring a broad and balanced perspective in decision-making. The proposal also included provisions for international cooperation and coordination, recognizing that the challenges posed by the reality language were global in nature. It emphasized the importance of transparency, public engagement, and education to build trust and understanding among the broader public and to ensure that the language was used for the common good. The ICRL convened a special session to review the proposal, with Maya and other key members of the working group presenting their findings and recommendations. The session was attended by representatives from a wide range of countries and organizations, reflecting the international community's deep interest in the issue. In her presentation, Maya reiterated the importance of a balanced and ethical approach. She acknowledged the concerns about restricting access, but argued that the risks of misuse were too significant to ignore. The reality language is a powerful tool, capable of transforming our understanding of reality and consciousness, she said. But with this power comes great responsibility. We must ensure that it is used ethically, transparently, and in a way that benefits all of humanity. This proposal represents our best effort to achieve that balance. The proposal sparked a vigorous debate among the ICRL members. Some supported the recommendations, seeing them as a necessary step to safeguard against potential abuses. They emphasized the importance of proactive measures to prevent unauthorized activities and to ensure that research was conducted responsibly. Others expressed concerns about the implications of the proposed restrictions. They worried that the measures could stifle innovation, create barriers to entry for researchers, and concentrate control over the language in the hands of a few. They called for a more flexible and inclusive approach, one that would allow for broader participation and exploration. After extensive deliberations, the ICRL reached a consensus to adopt the proposal, with some modifications to address concerns about inclusivity and flexibility. The decision was a significant milestone, representing a collective commitment to managing the reality language responsibly and ethically. It also marked the beginning of a new phase in the global handling of the language, with a focus on building a sustainable and inclusive framework for its study and application. The adoption of the proposal was met with a mixed reaction from the broader community. While many welcomed the measures as a necessary safeguard, others criticized them as overly restrictive or potentially counterproductive. The debate highlighted the ongoing tensions between different values and priorities, reflecting the complex and multifaceted nature of the challenges posed by the reality language. For Maya, the decision was a vindication of her efforts and a reaffirmation of her commitment to ethical stewardship. She recognized that the implementation of the measures would require careful management and continuous oversight, but she was hopeful that they would help to protect against the risks of misuse and promote responsible innovation. As the ICRL and its new oversight committee began their work, Maya continued to advocate for transparency, dialogue, and public engagement. She believed that building trust and understanding among the broader public was essential for the success of the initiative and for ensuring that the reality language was used for the common good. The turning point marked by the ICRL's decision was a critical juncture in the journey of understanding and managing the reality language. It reflected a collective recognition of the unique challenges and responsibilities posed by this powerful tool, and a commitment to addressing them with integrity and foresight. As the global framework took shape, Maya and her colleagues remained dedicated to exploring the language's potential, guided by the principles of ethics, collaboration, and a deep respect for the unknown. They knew that the journey was far from over, and that the path ahead would require continued vigilance, reflection, and cooperation. The turning point was not just a moment of decision, but a call to action, a reminder of the importance of shared values, collective responsibility, and the pursuit of a more ethical and enlightened future. For Maya, it was a moment of hope and inspiration, a testament to the power of dialogue, collaboration, and the shared commitment to the greater good. The decision by the International Council on the Reality Language, ICRL, to adopt a comprehensive framework for managing access to the reality language was a pivotal moment. It established new standards and protocols aimed at balancing the need for innovation with the imperative of ethical responsibility. However, as these measures began to be implemented, it became clear that maintaining unity and cooperation across the global community would be critical to their success. Dr. Maya Carter, now widely recognized as a leading advocate for ethical stewardship of the reality language, saw this phase as both an opportunity and a challenge. While the ICRL's decision provided a blueprint for responsible management, ensuring compliance and fostering a culture of transparency and trust were equally important. The new framework included the establishment of a central repository for the most sensitive data related to the reality language, a registry of approved researchers and institutions, and an independent oversight committee. These measures were designed to prevent unauthorized access and ensure that all research adhered to strict ethical guidelines. However, the success of this framework depended on the active participation and support of the international community. To address this challenge, Maya and the ICRL leadership organized a series of global forums and workshops aimed at building consensus and strengthening international cooperation. These events brought together scientists, policymakers, ethicists, and civil society leaders to discuss the implementation of the new framework and explore ways to enhance collaboration and trust. In her opening address at the first Global Forum, Maya emphasized the importance of unity and shared responsibility. The reality language is a gift and a challenge, she said. It offers us unprecedented opportunities for understanding and growth, but it also requires us to confront deep ethical and philosophical questions. We must work together across borders and disciplines to ensure that this knowledge is used wisely and for the benefit of all humanity. The forum featured a range of discussions and presentations highlighting best practices for ethical research, the role of public engagement, and strategies for preventing misuse. Participants shared experiences and insights, contributing to a richer understanding of the challenges and opportunities associated with the reality language. One of the key themes that emerged was the need for inclusivity and equity in the management of the reality language. Representatives from developing countries and marginalized communities expressed concerns about potential disparities in access to research opportunities and the benefits of the language. They called for measures to ensure that the language's potential was harnessed in ways that were inclusive and just. In response, the ICRL committed to developing initiatives aimed at promoting equitable access to research resources and opportunities. This included funding programs for researchers from underrepresented regions, supporting collaborations between institutions in different parts of the world, and ensuring that the Oversight Committee reflected diverse perspectives and expertise. As the forums continued, there was also a growing recognition of the need for public engagement and education. Participants emphasized that building trust and understanding among the broader public was essential for the success of the new framework. They advocated for initiatives to educate the public about the reality language, its potential benefits and risks, and the ethical considerations involved. Maya played a leading role in these efforts, leveraging her visibility and credibility to engage with various audiences. She participated in media interviews, public lectures, and educational programs, sharing her insights and advocating for a balanced and ethical approach to the reality language. She emphasized the importance of dialogue and transparency, encouraging the public to stay informed and involved in the ongoing conversation. The call for unity and collaboration also extended to addressing security concerns related to the reality language. While the framework aimed to prevent unauthorized access and misuse, there were ongoing challenges related to cybersecurity, data protection, and the potential for state or non-state actors to exploit the language for strategic purposes. The ICRL and its oversight committee worked closely with international security experts to develop protocols and safeguards. These included enhanced cybersecurity measures, regular audits and inspections, and mechanisms for reporting and addressing breaches. The goal was to create a robust and resilient system that could respond effectively to emerging threats and challenges. As these initiatives took shape, Maya and her colleagues were encouraged by the positive response from the international community. There was a strong sense of shared purpose and commitment, reflecting a recognition of the unique responsibilities associated with the reality language. However, they also knew that maintaining this unity would require continuous effort and vigilance. The global forums and workshops concluded with a reaffirmation of the commitment to ethical stewardship and international cooperation. The ICRL issued a statement emphasizing the importance of transparency, inclusivity, and shared responsibility. The statement also called for ongoing dialogue and collaboration, recognizing that the journey of understanding and managing the reality language was far from over. For Maya, the call for unity was a pivotal moment in her journey as a scientist and advocate. It reinforced her belief in the power of collaboration and the importance of shared values. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to continue her work, guided by the principles of ethics, transparency, and a commitment to the common good. As the global community moved forward, Maya remained focused on the broader implications of the reality language. She saw it not just as a scientific or technological phenomenon, but as a catalyst for deeper reflection on the nature of reality, consciousness, and human potential. She believed that the language had the potential to inspire a more integrated and holistic understanding of the world, one that transcended traditional boundaries and divisions. The call for unity was a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of working together to address common challenges. It was a call to recognize the shared responsibilities that came with powerful knowledge and to prioritize the greater good over narrow interests. As Maya looked to the future, she was hopeful and inspired. She saw the global response to the reality language as a testament to the possibility of collective action and ethical leadership. She believed that with continued dialogue, collaboration, and commitment, the international community could navigate the complexities and opportunities of the reality language and unlock its full potential for the benefit of all humanity. The call for unity was not just a moment in time, but a guiding principle, a reminder of the importance of shared values, mutual respect, and a commitment to the common good. It was a call that Maya was determined to answer as she continued her journey of discovery, reflection, and advocacy, inspired by the hope for a more ethical and enlightened future.